What if everything you've been doing, the work, the growth, the trying, has been aimed at the wrong target? What if the reason you're not where you want to be has nothing to do with your strategy, your discipline, or your desire, and everything to do with the identity you've been living inside of with actually not even knowing it? That question is what today's conversation is built on. And I promise you, by the time of this episode is over, you will never look at your own stuck points the same again. I'm Charla Goodnight. Welcome to Collective Guidance Podcast, the show where we go beneath the surface into the neuroscience, the spirituality, the deep human truth of what is actually takes to become who you were always meant to be. We're here for you twice a week, every week for you. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now before we go any further. This community is growing into something beautiful, and I don't want you to miss a single conversation. Now, my guest today is someone whose work I encountered, and I immediately thought, our listeners need this. She is an identity architect, an international speaker, a woman who has spent years standing at the intersection of cutting edge neuroscience and 4,000 years of Kabbalistic wisdom, and using both to help high performing women dismantle the invisible ceilings that they don't even realize they're there. And she has worked with entrepreneurs, corporate leaders, and teams around the world. She has led workshops for some of the most prestigious consulting firms on the planet. And she has built her entire body of work on one radical, life-changing idea. You don't have a strategy problem. You have an identity problem. Veronica, can you say your last name, Veronica? I love it. Go for it.
Barayev.
Veronica Barayev. Kisling, welcome to Collective Guidance. I've been waiting for this one for a hot minute, and I'm so grateful that you said yes to coming on and letting us have this conversation about your work.
I love this. Thank you so much for having me. The introduction, you did a beautiful job. Thank you so much for that. It made me feel good. And you're just such a ray of sunshine. I'm truly blessed to have this conversation with you today.
Well, thank you. I think you're a baddie also. And let's start where your work begins. I just got chills with a diagnosis most people don't see coming. You say the problem isn't strategy, it's identity. Walk us into that. What does that actually mean? And why does it matter so much?
Okay, so I also got chills because everybody's trying to look for the next thing, right? You even hire a coach, you hire a mentor because they will have the strategies to get you to the next level. But the truth is, first off, the strategy that they'll tell you might not even resonate with you. So to start off, it might not even be aligned. And even if it is aligned with you, you might not actually believe that you can achieve that. So you won't be able to execute to the level that you need to get there. So simple as, why don't you go for the $10 million sales? Why don't you go for the $20 million sales? Or we're aiming high here, right? It's only because of what you believe that you can sell. Because you believe when you put a price tag at $20 million, $10 million, $1 billion, it doesn't really matter. You actually believe that it might take a different identity of you. It might take a different version of yourself. But what happens is you just don't go for it. Or even if you are in that room, you self-sabotage yourself into doing it. And when you think about sales is a transfer of energy. And all you do day in, day out with your business, with your relationship, with your kids, negotiations are sales. And if you're not getting what you want in life, it's because you're not sold even on the first part, which is yourself.
I like that. I think so many people listening right now are doing all the things though. They're journaling, they're therapying, they're doing the courses, they're doing the manifestation practices, and they still feel stuck. And that's exhausting and honestly a little demoralizing. What is actually happening in the brain and in the body when someone is working so hard, at like negotiations and trying to make things work for them, but they're not moving forward?
There's this part of you, right? The nervous system. Everybody knows what that is. But it's just, if you are used to this, I like giving very simple examples that people can actually understand. So if you're a person that by default, like, loves being, in New York, hustle, bustle, everything's like honking, everything, you feel at peace there, right? If you take me, I grew up in Costa Rica, you put me there, after a month, I might be very stimulated because I like nature, peace. And so what happens when you're doing all these things, right? You're going for the deal. It's simply, why is it not landing? Your nervous system hasn't catched up to that's what you want. And what you want doesn't necessarily mean that is what you're going to get. You get what you are. You don't get what you want. Yes, you should visualize, right? Like you said, journal, like do the visualization practices, because that actually can expand you. And the first step into anything of identity work, it's actually seeing a possibility for yourself. It's to be able to actually see that version of yourself, right? But what happens is you go glitch, my nervous system is just not there yet. Or you're like, wait, no, I can't go for that. Like that, that seems like too much. It requires a different version of myself. And so in Kabbalah, what we say, it's tikkun, is just a correction of yourself, right? And so sometimes you put in all the work, and so you're not getting the result that you want. And you keep hitting these barriers and these walls. And it's because that is a part of you that you actually need to correct in yourself. So the inner work and the part of you that have to correct in yourself are very intertwined, because you can only work on the piece of yourself that you become aware of. All these struggles, maybe that you don't close the deal fell through, you're working so hard, but nothing is moving in your business. It's trying to show you something. Sometimes you don't need to work harder. You just need to understand what's holding you truly back.
So before you go any further, can you just explain what, I know what tikkun is because I've studied Kabbalah since 2006, but tikkun, to a lot of people are like, what the hell are they talking about? So can you tell us what tikkun is?
So tikkun is, to the simplest thing, a test, a challenge. These come into place so that you get to correct. The tikkun is that thing that you need to transform within yourself. Meaning, if you're a person that typically is very reactive, if you're a person that you're overgiving, if you get angry very quickly, if you tend to think that you're not worthy, if you say, if I don't get to become all these things, then I'm not worthy. All these pieces of yourself, which I like to relate it to the simple personal development. All your fears, your doubts, and worries, those are essentially your tikkuns, things that you get to correct. And you get to do them over and over again until you actually transform them.
And these are things that your soul comes into in this life. Yeah. And they're different for each person.
Yes. And the beautiful thing about relationships, and it's funny because 60% of the marriages, I don't know the numbers, but fail, right? 60% of marriages fail. And it's because sometimes we get so triggered at the other person. I believe it's truly a part of choosing each other over and over again, because the person that you're going to marry, and the reason why we love getting married, even if we know the odds of divorce are, and dating, we know how many relationships are failed. The reason why our soul craves it so much, and sometimes we say money doesn't even matter if I don't have somebody to share it with. It's because when you get into a relationship, that's the highest way to actually elevate yourself and to work on yourself. Because that person that you're with is going to trigger in you the things that need to be awakened, the things that need to be transformed. And so a relationship, it's not even that you're trying to consciously, poke them, which some people do, but it's more so they will become a mirror of yourself. And the things that actually bother you in the relationship are things that are bothering you internally.
Yeah, that resonates completely. It's really true. I'm in a relationship now, and both of us recognize that we do a lot of soul work together. So you talk about internal ceilings, and I love that phrase. Can you describe what an internal ceiling feels like from inside? Because I think a lot of people are bumping up against one right now, and they don't even have a name for it.
If you grew up thinking that maybe making money was hard, so you go get a job, you say, my goal is to get a 6-figure job wherever in corporate, climb the ladder, but you seem to only be getting that amount of money. And I like to use money because that's kind of like the easiest way to portray it, but it's also a relationship. If you keep having the same fight, it feels like you're stuck. It feels like you can't move forward. That's an internal ceiling. It's like an internal thermometer that determines if you can get that next thing, right? Let's say if you're stuck at a $2 million, $4 million business a year, and you're like, yeah, I'm doing amazing. I've been doing this consistently for 2 to 3 years. That's phenomenal. That's amazing, beautiful business. But is that where you want to stay? Some people are totally fine staying there because breaking through that ceiling, it's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so they choose to stay there. They don't need more money, right? It's actually they're living the life that they want. But if you truly want more in life, if you want to be more of you, which is not even about money, it's about joy. You have to learn, you can have all the money in life. You can be in the most beautiful relationship, but if you're not happy with yourself, happy internally, all of that will get tainted, or none of it you'll get to enjoy.
Yeah, you have to have the happiness within. My father used to always say, money does not make the man makes the money. And he was talking about, your work, but also your frequency that you vibrate at that attracts the money. And if you are vibrating at a lower frequency of scarcity, lack of abundance, or anything lower than I'm abundant and money flows to me effortlessly, then you're going to be presented that. You have to do the internal work for happiness. And that brings me to neuroscience, because you talk a lot about neuroscience in your work. And can you talk about neuroscience to listeners that is in a grounded and accessible way? Can you explain in plain language what is happening in the brain when someone is trying to change but keeps reverting to old patterns? And what are we actually up against neurologically?
So ever since you were born up until now, your brain you've had a way that you do actions, right? There is a reaction. And this is the same in Kabbalah and in neuroscience, but we're going to bring it to neuroscience, which is when you get a trigger, when you get a reaction, right? Maybe it's that somebody says hi, immediately you look up and you say hi, because that's the pathway that has gone through your brain through that action. So it's like a cause and effect, put it that way. So every time you do something, whether it's to take an action for your business, whether it's that, you hit yourself, your path has already gone through that way, right? So every time that you're trying to break out of a habit and you're actually trying to become a different person, to get a new feeling, right? Your brain defaults to that because it's the strongest pathway that it has ever caused. You have less than a split of a second where you can actually create a new neural pathway. What does that mean? That the same action comes to you and you get to consciously respond differently. But that takes a lot of awareness, because in that split of a second, you can actually change your destiny, because you can actually create a new reality. How? Through a new neural pathway. What does that mean? That means that every time this event comes, this thing that triggers that action, you might not go that same pathway because you have a way stronger pathway. Think about it two ways, right? You have one where there's a steady flow of a river, big river. And then you have that little channel that the water is weaseling its way through. When there's a big influx of water, it's just going to go through the mainstream. Why? Because it's the one that has the strongest currents. It's the one that's more developed. The small one, it's a very steady stream until more water flows through, and then you actually see the canal of it widen up. And so then when water influx comes that way, you can actually feel it both ways. Eventually, what you want to do is you abandon that canal, right? Let's say you put a barrier there where it's always a conscious choice and conscious action where you choose to go through the other river. Let's say you're there assisting the river. Think about it that way. Eventually, you'll block that river. It will dry out. Maybe grass will grow, and then nothing will go through there. And so that's how you shift forward. It's a conscious choice for every action that happens. And it happens in a mini split of a second that you're not even aware of. And that's why when you actually get these tools, right? When you start doing the internal work, if let's say your husband comes and screams at you, maybe you don't say, oh, it's not that I'm not good enough. Oh, it's not that he's mad at me. You just say, maybe he just got off a phone call with the bank. It was very stressful. I come asking for something. He doesn't even have a space to breathe. It's just a reaction. And so it's a conscious choice of understanding that's not me. And so with neural pathways, that's also how you determine who you are, right? Because it's thought, speech, action. We're talking about how we're going to do a new action. But mind you, all of this comes all through from our thoughts. Our thoughts are going to cause that action of how you choose to react differently. But it's what's going on in your head before you actually even get to do whatever you're going to do. Because my reaction would be, let me snap back. I've done the work, so I will never snap back. I would just say, you know what? Let me just step back. I'll come ask you in like a minute or two.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so good. I felt my heart just like expand open and get like all excited. And like whenever I feel something that really resonates, my chest gets really excited. And so I felt that. That was such a great description of how new neuro pathways are created. And it takes a practice. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, the non-reaction, but awareness is everything. Awareness is everything.
And you know what? It should also give you hope that you can create whatever you want. I was just listening today to a neuroscientist, that she was conducting a research and how you can actually change your personality in 6 weeks, which to anybody, it should be hope. And what you've come to realize, you have these things called cognitive biases, right? Things that you tend to default. And your brain can literally be architected to whatever you want it to be. Because, for example, I'm going to be honest. I have a default for sometimes running late. Okay, if I know I have that thing, I give myself, I always, so you say, this is the cognitive bias, this is the bias that I have that I tend to do. So you say, what is the exact counteraction that I can do that only will work for me? Nobody can tell you what will work. And you say, okay, this is what I have to do. So if it's getting ready, if it's going onto a place, you say, this is the amount of time that I need allotted because I know I tend to underestimate the time it takes to actually do something. And so if you're aware of that, then you can start, for example, for me, my schedule, I start architecting it in a way that I know that I need to create buffers because I might do things slower than I actually expect. So it gives you really like hope and people that maybe didn't grow up very blessed. And, I can actually architect my life by architecting my mind. And if I master my thoughts, then I can master my reality.
1000%. Preach it, girl. Yes, yes, yes. And that is the rewiring of the brain process. That is a complete rewiring of the brain. So give us 3 things that practically in real life that they can like start to rewire their brain.
So the first one is awareness. It's very hard to be aware of what are your patterns if you don't have, for example, a coach or somebody that's really good at spotting these. So what do I tell people? How you do one thing is how you do everything. Super overused in the self-development world, but hear me out, because if you see that you are maybe reacting a certain way in your business, in your job, and if you see that at home, you might be hearing the same feedback from your husband, that's a thread that you definitely have to work on, right? If you feel like you always want to be controlling at work, right? You always want to be controlling at home. That's a very strong thing that you have to work on. But here's the thing, right? Only if it does not serve you. Some people don't want to let go of whatever they have to get to the next level, and that's okay. So I would say the first step is awareness. And also, anytime that somebody criticizes you, whether it's your husband, you're like, oh, but you blah, 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 or your partner or your friend or your parents, your mom, your dad, your coworker, take that as feedback and say, what part of that is truth? Because if they're saying it, well, it's their perspective, there is a truth in that. So what part of their truth do I want to change? So at least their perspective can change because I have changed.
Right. And maybe their perspective isn't going to change, but you can take that information as feedback and say, okay, where is this true? And you can grow from that. And also where is it not true? And not in a blame way, but where is it not true? Or how is this presenting itself? It's a great way of reflection on self. You're exactly right about that. So what else can they do? So awareness and take that feedback is one.
Then the second part of it, right, would be, now that you have the awareness, sometimes what I tell some clients to do, write it down on your phone. Even what triggered you. You know, you have a list of triggers on your phone. And so the next time that trigger comes, you're hyper aware it's a trigger because you have it written in your phone. So simplest tools, like life is not that hard. You pause. Literally when that comes, you're so hyper aware that that's something, then you pause. And then when you're paused, whether it is 2 seconds that you need to breathe, whether it's 10 minutes, you then choose what is a different action. And slowly but surely, you'll start rewiring your brain. And by different action can even be, maybe you try to make a sale, it didn't go through. Instead of thinking and internalizing, which the action will be internalized, that maybe you're not worthy, or maybe you're not meant for this, or maybe you shouldn't do that, right? Internalizing a negative self-talk, you actually pause and you say, but what could be a different truth? What could be something that I choose to believe differently about myself? What story can you make up about the other person, right? Doesn't have to be true, but you just say, you know what, like they maybe just didn't like that I was Latina from Costa Rica. Make up stuff. It doesn't matter. At the beginning, is just for you to be able to kind of take that belief and be like, it's not about me. You do have to have radical honesty and radical accountability about your actions. In the end, a lot is in your control. A lot is things that you are choosing to do and react in ways to behave that are causing chain of events, right? So I'm not saying, oh, I'm Latina, I shouldn't go and work. No, just say, it wasn't about me, but now let me go maybe work on my sales skill set. Let me review the call. What happened there?
How can I become better?
How can I become better? And it's same as the cognitive bias. How can I develop the opposite of that? How can I create a different belief? How can I create something better? And I think those 3 steps, it sounds so simple, but I hope the tangibility of all these examples actually make you understand to the depth that something so simple can actually transform and change your life.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I want to go somewhere that might scare some people. It's new territory for listeners, but we touched a little bit on Kabbalah. And I think I mentioned that I've studied Kabbalah since 2006.
Was that like the Madonna time that Kabbalah became popular?
Well, actually, I had a nanny that introduced me to The Secret. And
Oh.
then she introduced me to Kabbalah. And I started studying Kabbalah with the Kabbalah Center. I did the meditations. I mean, the meditations are so amazing. I'm like, I love them. And then that doing the meditation, studying the letters and meditating on the letters is the first time I literally floated out of my body and was able to just like observe everything around me. It was really wild. And that's really when I got into meditation. But I haven't ever talked about Kabbalah on
Mhm.
collective guidance. And so I'm so grateful that you're here to discuss this. Veronica, can you just tell us what Kabbalah actually is in the most human, accessible way?
So Kabbalah, think about it this way. You know how you get a manual for when you received a fridge? And you're like, okay, if error, then I do this. Kabbalah is a manual for life. That it's all it is. It's a way of how to live life, right? It's really rooted in a place of non-reactivity. It's all about how we just spoke about neuroscience. Like we said, in a split of a second, you can create a new neural pathway. Science proves that, but Kabbalah has proved it for thousands of years ago. It says in that split second that you decide to take a different action, be non-reactive, then you actually transform into a different destiny. And we can kind of guide the conversation however you want to in Kabbalah, but to the simplest of the terms, it's its own thing, but it uses all the wisdom from the Old Testament, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the
Jewish
Torah, if you're
mysticism.
Jewish, yes. So people have seen as Jewish mysticism, so nobody really leans into it because they're like, well, that is for Jewish people.
Mm-hmm. But it's
But
not.
it's not. It's agnostic to every religion. For starters, everybody believes in the Old Testament. Um, but it's just a way of life that so many people that have been in the personal development space for 15, 20 years, they come to Kabbalah and they say, this is the thing that actually clicked for me, that all the things didn't, and it actually transformed my life.
I mean, it definitely transformed my life and threw me into a completely different level of spirituality. You use a Kabbalistic lens to explain why we don't receive what we want. And
Mhm.
that idea that the problem is our capacity to receive, not the availability of what we desire, I think is profound. Can you go deeper on that?
Of course. And thank you for bringing that up. Kabbalah, we live in an infinite world. If you are, agnostic, we covered the neuroscience. Let's bring you a little bit more spiritual. You don't have to be religious. Kabbalah is not about religion per se,
Mm-mm.
but the world is infinite. If you think about the universe, the creator, God, however you choose to reference the infinite abundance above us, we live in an infinite world. And the creator is the most infinite thing that there exists. So when we get to actually tap into that light, what we would call in science that frequency, we actually get to be in that energy, right? We spoke about tikkun a little bit, but if you're not getting something that you want in life, it's because it's exactly there so that you can transform your tikkun. Because when you think about tikkun, think about it this way, right? You go to a movie theater and there's multiple movies playing at time, right? You go and they might be the James Bond, they might be the Mission Impossible. There might be another one, like, I don't know, Cinderella. Um, and so they're all different movies, right? Think about it as different destinies that we have. So in Kabbalah, we believe that everything has been predetermined.
Mm-hmm.
But in that split second, when you decide a different choice, when you pause, choose not to be reactive, and then come from a place of wholeness, complete, meaning you elevated your frequency, you actually get to jump into a new reality. That split second is called free will, right? So what does that mean? Let's bring it back to the movies. It is exactly like I bought the ticket for James Bond. I'm in James Bond right now. I don't like this actor. But you're not going to say, hey, look, come change the actor in the movie. Let's redo it. You just say, let me go to Mission Impossible, test that out. It's the same with reality. You say, hey, maybe I don't like my life how it is right now in any aspect of it. You say, why don't I work on myself to transform it so that I actually get to go into a different movie and have a different reality? If you don't like where you are, you feel stuck, you're in a non-loving relationship, maybe you grew up without any money, and you're like, I'm just sick of this. Invisible ceiling, right? Stuckness is that invisible ceiling. Then you say, let me transform a part of me so that I actually get to access a new movie.
Yeah, I just did an episode on timeline jumping and how we can move through timelines by exactly what you just said right there. I mean, that is basically transforming your timeline by getting into the alignment and frequency to that which you desire. Now, are you saying that is it possible that the very thing that someone's been struggling with their whole life is actually the map to their purpose? Is that what Tikkun is pointing at? Is that what you're saying?
So I personally believe, and this is from, what I've studied, that the purpose of life is truly pleasure and to elevate yourself and become a better you. It's that plain simple. Us humans need to attach a meaning to that, right? We feel the need to understand, why did I grow up maybe in that abusive household? Why did maybe my family member get sick? Why did I have to break up with that person? Why did he have to break up my heart? And so we try to find meaning to everything, because how hollow does it feel to feel like you don't have any meaning and that all the hardship that you went through was for nothing? So I believe, right, and as we're working through all these things, we're correcting pieces of it, right? It's small tikkuns. And so you're collecting all these things, and then you get to build what is the story of yourself. Why did you have to go through those things? Because here's the thing. In life, you're only fulfilling your full purpose if you are both correcting yourself and making yourself a better person, but also if you're teaching. If you're not teaching anyone, then you're only living 50% of your purpose. Whether that is to a coworker, whether that is us in a podcast, right? And so we collect all these evidence, right? All these things that we worked on ourselves to become the better us. And now we actually say, now we need to go teach it so that we have meaning in our life. And so we grab all these instances to actually understand why we went through, and actually to release a little bit of our pain, or a more physiological level, to release a little bit of that heartache of why we underwent through all of that. And it helps you really change from like, why me, to like, this is why.
I mean, that's what collective guidance was really founded on. And I think that another piece to add to that is that it's our soul's purpose to share and to teach so that others do not feel alone in the human existence. And they feel like, oh, okay, like she's gone through that. She came out on top. I can do that shit too. Like I can do that too. And to show up for others in that way, that was really, really, I swear, you're just like getting me all excited. I just love it.
and you know what? To go into the receiving part, like that was a big part of me too. Like one of the biggest things that I had to go through, even as, for me finding my husband, for me to actually build any wealth, to build a business, you asked me about Kabbalah and receiving. And it's truly like, as females, we sometimes struggle with receiving, even though that's the most feminine aspect, because we tend to stay on the giving because it's our nurturing side. And part of a collective, if we're here on point on brand, there's this collective piece of us that when you don't receive, when you don't know how to receive, it's because you might not feel like you're worthy, right? And so for me, that's a big thing. I couldn't even receive a compliment. And then I went into this journey because my face was full of acne, and now everybody's like, what skincare do you use? And what did you do? And it honestly all started because a mentor of mine, she was actually my esthetician at the moment. She said, all of this is coming. And mind you, she had helped everyone else, but with me, it didn't work. And in Kabbalah, they truly believe that your answer, or, you know, whether the doctor, the coach, the person, that the right message doesn't come until you learn the lesson. And she was saying, for you, it's manifesting internally what it's expressing externally, what's coming internally. And so I think, you know, this podcast, you know, having this collective guidance of how can people actually feel like they can overcome it and actually do it, you know, it starts from you. It starts from starting to feel that you're worthy, from starting to receive, from starting to accept yourself. And I think for me, at least, that's one of the big things that I bring to this earth, because I needed validation, and my skin was the way of screaming. You know, it was a way that was like, now I can't feel validated. I don't feel whole with myself. And so, you know, where do we go from this?
Yeah. One of my favorite things about Kabbalah is to give is to receive. To receive is to give. And that is one of the prayers, you know, that like when someone doesn't receive, I'm like, to give is to receive is to give. Thank you for giving. I'm like, now, if you don't want to give to me by receiving, we need to figure out why you don't want to give. You know, like what is keeping you from giving? But you've worked with women who are doing everything right on paper. They're doing everything. They're successful, they're driven, they're accomplished, and they still feel like something fundamentally are off. What is usually the moment of truth in that work? Like what shifts first for them?
Everybody's so different. You know, but it's really like when they finally get to feel like they're worth for just being them. It's not attached to the doing, because we live in such a physical world that we're so conditioned that everything, and this is for men too, right? They, and especially that, they have it very rooted, and their worth is literally the amount of money that they can produce and bring to the household. It's the amount of money that they can do. And for us, it's the same. It's, you know, how can I do things in the household? You know, if you want to be successful in your career, how can I make more money? And it's about, how about you just learn to feel worthy without any attachment of how that has to look like, and just by your energy. And that sounds extremely mind-blowing to some people, but I've worked with people that are in the 8 figures. And truly, when they start doing that, they start to surrender. They start allowing for miracles to happen. You know, when females, when they're very successful, sometimes they guard themselves up too much. They put so many rails, they put boundaries, and they become hard, because that's what business does to you, right? You have to go through, mull through. But when you want to control so much, you're controlling also the destiny into staying small. When you ask for what you want, you're actually having a very limited mindset, because the universe is infinite. So when you say, I want it to work out this way and let me go with this strategy, great, bulldoze it through. I'm sure you're going to make so much money, build so much success, but you don't even know if you would have allowed it to play it out in a loose way, right? It's like that. It's like that feminine that flows in the masculine structure. You could have gotten a different life. And what I say to people is, you don't even know how good life can get. Like, you truly don't have a concept. Like the Disney movies, those can be true. A lot of people have demonized them, saying like, oh, they've made unrealistic expectations. No, they haven't. You just have limit yourself to believe those can't be true.
Speak it. Yes, that is so true. The limitations that we put on ourselves, like it's just the limitations that we put on ourselves. So this is the last question, because we're kind of coming to an end. And I want you to answer this from one of the deepest places within you. If there is one thing you want every soul listening to this episode to walk away knowing, one truth about who they are and what's possible for them, what is it?
You're so worthy of even more than what you desire.
Gosh, I feel that so in my heart. And I got to be honest with you. And I don't really care because this is my podcast and I get to say whatever the fuck I want to say. My nipples just got hard from that. Like, I was just like totally stimulated from that, like it just my whole, like I literally have chills. My hair is standing up. You can see it a little. That just, and it came so beautifully from the last answer that you gave. And it just like really, thank you for that, Veronica. We are so worthy of more than we can ever imagine. And the request that keeps coming to me from you speaking is angels, spirit, divine creator. I am open to everything you have to offer me, everything that you have to give me. And I am so grateful for every single moment that you have given me and the divine love that you have shown me in life. And so it is. Amen. And I just, that is what really was flowed through me whenever you said that. So thank you so much for sharing that. Veronica, this conversation was everything I hoped it would be. You have given listeners language for something that I know they've been feeling, but they can't name it. And that is a true gift. And I am beyond grateful for you saying yes to me, reaching out to you, because I just like, I saw you on Instagram and I was like, I love this woman's energy. And, I'm the type of person that, like when I want to be friends with someone, I'll just be like, hey, can I be your friend? And even if they say no the first time, I'll always go back and I'll be like, hey, do you want to be my friend again? Or,
that's
so
me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so
I like your energy. Can
we
be friends?
Yeah. I like your energy. Can I be friends with you? And, so I was very attracted to you, and I think you just have so much to offer. If people want to know how to work with you, and how can they do that?
Just let me know that you came through the Collective Guidance podcast and we can talk about it. Just let me know. I love knowing where people like found me, because it helps me understand what conversation did you hear. And honestly, it helps me just even like create more content. Like I'm in a place where I love to give, like love to create content. I love like transform people's life. Like genuinely, I cry every time somebody that's in my world and works with me like gets something. So it, even just that, like that is just such a gift to let me know that you found me here.
Yeah. And we'll put all of your information in the show notes, how anyone can reach out to you. Friends, if this episode inspired you, moved you, do 3 things right now. Subscribe to Collective Guidance Podcast so you never miss a conversation with me. Leave a review if the show has ever made you think, shift, or feel seen. And I like sharing episodes with people. So if it resonated, share this episode with one person in your life who needs to hear it today. This is how we grow the community, one conversation, one connection at a time. Until next time, keep choosing yourself and know that all that you desire is within your reach. Thank you, Veronica, so much for coming on. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.